just this week, I saw people talking about, oh, the ChatGPT algorithm changed. There is no algorithm, right? That's not how it works. There's no rank. I feel like the most truly powerful thing for SEOs and marketers, because there's so much data that you're working with on a regular basis, to have 101 knowledge.
Today I'm joined by Britney Muller. She's an AI and marketing educator and former Senior SEO Scientist at Moz. She has worked for Hugging Face and now trains teams to ship practical AI workflows and help marketers get in tune with AI. Enjoy today's episode. I would love to know more about your background, because I feel like you really became known in this space, and if it's safe to assume, when you became Moz's scientist, like SEO scientist, and that's such an interesting role because usually they go in as an SEO or a marketer, but you were essentially a scientist. So how did that come about? And you were in that role in 4 years. So maybe you can talk us through how you got into that role, how you made it work for you, and what was your most enjoyable experience in that role.
I love it. I have had the weirdest career path in history. It doesn't make any sense. I went to school for public relations. So real quick, like nutshell, how I got to the scientist position was I couldn't find a job after college. I graduated from the University of Minnesota. Pumpkin, it's just going crazy out there. I'm so sorry. And then, I could not find a job. Ended up moving out to Colorado to do the whole snowboard bum thing and was waitressing. And then I got into like script kiddie hacking. So I would get onto like Wi-Fi networks or leave kind of backdoor messages on websites or in their analytics. I was doing some weird stuff and I was just having fun, like not just playing with technology. Ranking #1 for US Burton Open day of the event when they first started in Vail. And it got the attention of the SEO industry, and people reached out to me and they're like, you can do this and get paid for it, or like, this is a career. I'm like, no, it's not. Is it really? And so I fell into it because I was just writing for a local realtor. And it's so funny how things are just, ultimately bring you to where it feels like you're supposed to be. There could have been hundreds of different paths that led me to here, but it was this one very kind of bizarre way. And then I ended up starting my own agency in Denver, Colorado, doing medical marketing. And after 4 years of that, it wasn't what I loved. Like I got further and further away from doing the work that I loved. And so, I ended up finding jobs for all 6 of my employees. And then at that same time frame, I started speaking, which was terrifying. I had no idea what I was doing. My first talk was at PubCon. I thought I was going to vomit everywhere. And I was just like, I've got to give it a shot, who cares? But then that one speaking event led to the next, and Moz reached out to me because Cyrus was leaving. And so I was so honored and excited. And I went through the interview process and got hired, and absolutely loved working there. I think Moz was like an incubator for me. It was like my career fertilizer. I could not have fallen into a better, more supportive, just more incredible network of people and brilliance. And they really were so helpful and non-judgmental of my obsession with machine learning. And that all started in 2013 when I found Harvard's CS 109 data science course. They uploaded the classes every Tuesday and Thursday, and I absorbed it like it was my favorite sitcom. I couldn't wait for those videos to come out. I was so obsessed, and I sort of got bit by that machine learning bug so early, and I just never let it go. And Moz really let me play with that and experiment with that and continue to research and talk about it. And it helped me develop that even more, And so, talk about an incredible path to that role. And that title was something they just gave to me. They saw the work that I was doing and they thought, that was an appropriate title. And I absolutely loved it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So much to unpack here.
Yeah.
How did you kind of go about crafting research or experiments at Moz? How were you finding inferences? Because you said you had a PR background, you were a marketer before, and then you just went headfirst into a researcher / scientist / speaking. And then academic, academia role because you're also presenting your findings. So this is what happens, with PhDs and stuff like that. So I'm wondering, how did you come up with the research questions that you have in mind, and how you integrated that with machine learning way before it was a thing, also in the SEO industry?
Yeah. Yeah, I love this. That's a great question. I think the research became a lot more clear when I realized like at Moz, I had access to several large corpuses of data, right? We had lots of search data. We had lots of keyword data. And we started to collect and harness real valuable like SERP information, right? And like the full collection of the SERP and rendering what was visible and what not. And so that kind of led me to the path of what would be valuable for marketers. What sort of insights could we glean? And so like an early one was trying to determine the intent of searches based on what was showing up in the search results. This was a really fun kind of experimental phase for Moz where we were throwing different things against the wall and we had all these running theories. And one of my theories was, well, maybe we could just look at that sub navigation where it's news, maps, this, because that changes for every search. And that is a little indicative of what it is that people are looking for. It's sort of like just this one little example of like how to determine intent behind searches. It's like the sorting socks. Like there's hundreds of ways you can sort socks, which is such a silly example. But in a similar way, there's so many different ways you can analyze a search. And we were testing and experimenting to surface like which is the best or most reliable way to do that. And so yeah, it was just such an incredible space to experiment on those things. I know SERP features, right? When those started really exploding, we wanted to do a lot with that. How are they growing? What's going up and what's going down? And that's a lot of the incredible work that Dr. Pete has always been surfacing and providing really helpful information. So it was both a mix of what data do I have available to me? And then also what do I feel or think the audience and SEOs would find helpful.
And what advice then do you have for people currently like doing a lot of these research specifically for LLMs, right?
Yeah.
Where they're tracking it day in and day out and doing their own experiments. You see a lot of these results being shared on LinkedIn. How do you feel about the quality of research that's being conducted? And what constitutes like a good research, where you can actually share your reliable findings in SEO? Because
Yeah.
one of the factors of in the academia world is for a research to be good is like replicability. Yeah. Being able to reproduce
Yes. Yeah.
reliable data sources. So like what are your like tips?
Yeah. I mean, it's really tricky because I do have empathy for CEOs of marketers wanting to have a better understanding of what's going on here, but we're trying to measure a magic 8 ball, and it doesn't really work like that. To your point, like it's not repeatable. And when we do this, when we try to provide some sort of static measurement to probabilities, it's not like a true reflection. I also don't think we're using the right terminology, like we're still using like ranking, and it should be like literally probability percentage would be way more sound for the technology we're talking about. But instead, we've just been so stuck in this search engine mental model. I'm seeing so many people have a hard time kind of embrace this new technology for what it is and how different it is. Just this week, I saw people talking about, oh, the ChatGPT algorithm changed. There is no algorithm, right? There are weights and it's so different. Like that's not how it works. There's no rankings. Like these are probabilities. It's a non-deterministic system. So I really do struggle with that. Where I do think you can start to do some interesting things is I think there's a lot of powerful things that you can build now. Like even within Google Sheets, if you want to run the same high value keywords or high value prompts on a daily or weekly basis to get a better sense of how frequently you're showing up, I think you should do that. And I think it's easier now than ever to do that and to have more control and flexibility over that process versus letting some of the tools charge you up the wall for who knows how often they check those, because it is expensive to run. But the API costs are still manageable for small, medium businesses. And so I'm seeing like more of my students at least, and I'm having fun kind of spinning up some of those resources for people.
And doing it yourself essentially, and not
Yeah,
really buying into a lot of these like tools that are out there as well. Because I guess also the learning cost involved in it of understanding how they work and then verifying whether that data is
right.
even applicable to you. So
Right.
what's maybe in your tech stack then? Could be as simple as having making use of Google Sheets, but
Yeah,
maybe you can walk through your current tech
I would
stack
love to.
for tracking
Yeah.
mentions, or all these terms are interchangeable. So please use the ones that you prefer.
Yeah, I think it's good to check against at least 2 LLMs, right? So whether that be ChatGPT or Gemini or maybe ChatGPT and Anthropic, I'd like to pull in at least 2 of those APIs. I do love Google Sheets. You can do a lot of incredible automations just within there and keep it easy for your team. I love GPT for Sheets. It's an incredible plugin that allows you to bring AI right into Google Sheets. And so you can basically categorize outputs. You can start to clean up different data. You can use it to craft outreach. You can do some really like wild and interesting things with it. Yeah,
Maybe
GPT.
your favorite use case.
My favorite use case right now is LinkedIn outreach using GPT for Sheets, where you use Phantom Buster to pull in um, user, like specific LinkedIn user information that includes a comment that they left on a competitive post. So you set up Buster and you can have it log interactions with like your post, or you could do a competitor's post. And it's fun to put in a competitor and see what are people saying about this product, tool, or service? And then all that comes into a Google Sheet because you export it. And so you have all these form fields. You have first, last name, job title, their headline, the comment that they left, the competitor's
Right.
post, and you can feed all of these columns into GPT for Sheets with a prompt that I actually shared for Brighton SEO. We could share it to listeners who are interested.
Yes, please.
You plug that all into this prompt that then surfaces like a personalized outreach message. And shout out Federico Pasquale, who also is founder of another must-have tool, in my opinion, wordcrafter.ai. He is a genius, and we work together at Hugging Face, and he's been using AI in ways that it's qualified for. And so he came up with this process to do on behalf of early stage startup kind of go to market strategy. And he didn't test it or implement it. And I wanted to provide numbers, right? Like, how does that do? What's the success rate here? And so I ran my own little experiment for Brighton SEO. And I discovered when I did this, I got an 80% success rate or response rate.
But not even open rate response. Okay.
Response rate. Yeah, response rate. And this was all
Sorry,
through.
because these are comments, right?
So I'm basically sending a direct message to someone based on a comment they
Oh, like,
left, like a competing post.
I
And
see.
I'm honest with people about this. Like, I didn't feel good about it. I didn't, and
Do what you have to do.
yeah, it didn't make me feel good. Like, it felt something about it, like in my gut. It was like this for me personally, and like my value system and the things I'm working on, like, it's not right for me. For a company that's trying to grow or go to market, if you can do it in the right way, it could be very useful and appropriate. Uh,
Recruitment as well.
yeah, recruitment, there's lots of cases where this could be valuable. And again, it's like it's harnessing data and AI in the way that AI is like best used for. And in these workflows that I like to talk about, AI is often just a teeny, teeny piece of the process. Process is collecting all that data through something like Phantom Buster, because LinkedIn is notoriously difficult to crawl or get data from. And so the way that I teach students about coming up with these workflows for yourself and having your own mental model is really starting with the problem, right? Like really clearly identifying something that you want support or more efficiency with, and then working kind of backwards from that. What are the data sources that you would need to collect to do this? How would you write out that task as if you're giving it to a new hire in a different room? Right? You really have to break a task down. So, for example, the LinkedIn outreach, that didn't come from thin air. That was, wait, where do we start? We start by finding competitors that have a similar audience that we're trying to go after, right? How do we get that data? What does that look like? That Phantom Buster comes up and does that. That piece is now done. All right, where do we create the automated message? That all happens with GPT for Sheets in a spreadsheet environment. And then we could even take this a step further and automate the sending process. I'm not comfortable with that. I always recommend having a human in the loop when you're doing stuff like this and making sure people are reviewing it and making sure that it's helpful and valuable. But that is sort of the correct mental model. And then also to give yourself the grace to like get it wrong. Like showing up is the biggest, hardest, most important first step, and having the courage to implement imperfectly, because that is the only path to success with this stuff. You have to be comfortable failing. You have to be comfortable getting to an ugly V1, because going from 0 to 1 is really, really hard. Just get an ugly V1 and then you can always take it from 1 to 2 or 2 to 3, And so that's that. Honestly, I think that part of it is so undervalued and something I try really hard to highlight for students in the course, because I see so many get defeated when their idea doesn't work right away.
Automation breaks or whatever, but it's part of
Yeah,
the learning process.
it is literally part of the process.
And but it's very important that you said having a human in the loop for the
Yes.
execution part, if you're the outreach part, or when it
Yes. Right?
so that you can like check that everything is works well. I was recently at Spotlight, a conference SEM Rush did in where I stay, Amsterdam. And there was someone from LinkedIn. She was the head of like I think AI innovations, and she was basically talking about all the guardrails you need to have in place when you are implementing like an AI, or in this case machine learning automation, which is
Yeah.
what really really is, right? And
Yeah.
yes, I think it's a very important point. I want to talk about your time in Hugging Face. So how did you
Yeah.
decide? When did you decide that it was time to leave Moz and head to Hugging Face? Is it because you wanted to get deeper into your understanding of NLP and actually work for a company that provides this? So for our listeners, Hugging Face essentially, it's an open source platform that you can use to be. They have their own LLMs. Maybe you can do a better job of explaining
Yeah.
what it is that they do and why you decided to join them. They're pretty huge, so I don't think
Yeah.
most people won't know them, but it'll be good to
They
hear from your
Thanks
point of
for
view.
saying that. They are huge especially in the AI world. They're kind of known as the AI startup unicorn. And they position themselves as sort of the GitHub for AI models and for open source models. And yeah, the way that I got there is just kind of another like wild story. But and when COVID hit, I really felt so compelled to go all in on machine learning, which in retrospect, like probably wasn't a great idea to just decide to go all in on learning and consulting, but it's led me to here and I'm
I
so
would say it was
excited.
great. You timed it perfectly.
Yeah, but people are like, what are you doing? Like leaving an awesome job, in
You were the
2020.
best part of the hype cycle, you're in it early adopter.
Yeah.
You were in.
I was obsessed. I was kind of like, I was just a sponge. I was, attending all the AI conferences, taking all the courses, reading all the AI books, building really dumb models. Like, and that's what I try to tell students is like, you build confidence through building silly things, right? Take the pressure off and have fun with it. Because my path to this world, it has literally been through just like having fun and like creating like image recognition models that can recognize like my friends or, just like silly, silly stuff. But I was basically, learning and consulting and just going all in on the AI space in 2020. And then in 20, I think it was 2022, Puerto Rico, the founder of WordCrafter.ai, he reached out to me because he wanted to hire me as like the second marketing person at Hugging Face, because while I was at Moz, he owned Monkey Learn, which was a incredible company that got acquired, but they basically did NLP at scale, and I was using it at Moz. And so I was emailing him and his co-founders about like, hey, how do I do this? Or this is getting stuck, or how do I like just asking him questions like again, like super early on this stuff that we found those emails recently, and it was 2016 or 2017. And that always stuck with him and he followed my work. And so when he saw that I was taking this really seriously and I had the technical background and been building the models, he thought you're kind of the perfect person to come on board and create this bridge from our technical teams and the general public. So I helped quarterback the largest open source multilingual language model called Bloom, which was really exciting. I helped write some of like the technical guides that are still on Hugging Face, like the BERT 101 guide. We did some cool NLP stuff, but that's literally how it came to be. Was it was this like he reached out to me. I thought this was kind of like too good to be true. I cannot even express how like I don't get weird around celebrities, but I get really weird around like intellectuals that I have like absorbed all of their stuff. I've like followed them, I've read about them in books, I've like, worked on the models that they've created or the libraries. I being at Hugging Face was just like constantly being like surrounded by my heroes and feeling like this is crazy. This is crazy. And that to know that they're real people. And now I've experienced working with them. Like it's still crazy to think about, to be honest. And I really kind of naively thought that going somewhere like Hugging Face would suddenly enlighten me and all of my questions that I have about the technology. And I left with more questions than answers. It's like one
I
of
feel
those
like the
things.
deeper you go, the more complicated it becomes.
Totally, totally. So that was like, man, like I really thought I was going to get somewhere with some of the stuff. And instead, I'm just like, I know nothing. Like, holy cow, this is crazy stuff. But yeah, what a cool experience.
What advice do you have for people in SEO based on your experience in Hugging Face? What were some of the maybe cool insights that you gathered from that role that could be applicable for SEOs out there? Any research or any specific tools or like models that you worked with? You said that you worked with different libraries as well.
Yeah. What's so funny is there's all these cool models and papers that I would like love to give shout outs for and recommend, but I feel like the most truly powerful thing for SEOs and marketers, because there's so much data that you're working with on a regular basis, to have 101 knowledge on pandas, which is it's a Python like statistics and mathematical library, gives you superpowers. Your ability to create notebooks and resources for clients that in an instant generates their custom click-through rate curve based on Google Search Console data, or can instantly merge like content categories and again like maybe Google Search Console traffic so that you can see what categories are bringing you the most traffic through search and where can you maybe invest in supporting those better. I mean, there's people don't understand like pandas isn't just statistics and analytics. You can do visualizations and interactive charts and plots. Matplotlib is another library you pull in. I actually, through teaching the course, I always said this, but I never had time in the Actionable AI course to teach it. And so a couple months ago, I was like, screw it. Like, I'm just going to reach out to all my old students and see if they're interested in just hopping on a Zoom call for an hour and learning about this. And what we did is we together took the Bigfoot sightings data set, which is all of the reportings of saw Bigfoot here at this time. And my
I
main
honestly thought this was a term for some other like.
no, no, this is where I'm like, you got to be silly. You got to have fun with this stuff because it is like a little intimidating and, unnatural. And so you have to like add some levity, I think. So yeah, we analyzed the Bigfoot sighting database and we pulled it into notebooks. And together we were able to discover like, oh, when is Bigfoot most commonly seen? What day of the week? What time? What area of the United States? Let's use NLP to analyze the reports. Let's create visualizations of trends over the years of Bigfoot sightings in different locations. Like we just kept slicing and dicing. And what it did is it's like super silly, but it shows you the power of like in a statistically sound way, analyzing this data and surfacing the insights you want. And I think it's so, so important to have those abilities in your back pocket. But something I stress, and I think marketers and SEOs should get better at this as well, is it's like data is cheap. It is cheap to get create a everything dashboard. Good questions are expensive, right? Knowing what it is that you're trying to identify or surface to do an action is your secret sauce. That is what takes all of this to the next level. And when you have that paired with something like a panda's, 101 background or ability to create different things, you're limitless in terms of what you can start to put together for clients. Yeah.
I want to touch on that. Like you said that formulating the question is the most important part of this. And I
Yeah.
think this can be tied into also making use of LLMs, right? Which is something people who are
Yes.
maybe not as comfortable or maybe don't want to take the step into, pandas just yet and getting all
Yeah.
technical. But for them,
Yeah.
working with a chatbot, a chat interface, but still making use of these LLMs, they can then do that with figuring out how to create perfect prompts or, prompts are also like essentially good questions that you're trying to answer these questions, but you first have to like formulate a good prompt. I hope you're getting the the segue I'm trying to make.
So
So what I would like to ask, do you have any advice for the kind of prompts that marketers can actually use to help them with like vague marketing tasks? Because
yeah.
right now people are also trying to automate a lot of things using these LLMs. I feel like when you said, the questions are really important, that ties into also
Yeah.
creating a good prompt. So you have advice on how you could create good prompts for like vague marketing tasks? Like how do you go about creating good questions and good prompts?
Yeah, no, that's a really good
Right? It's
question.
a bit of a jump.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I think so creating a good prompt is also an iterative process. You're not going to create or copy from somewhere the perfect prompt for what it is that you're doing. Your prompt is only as good as the context and the data you include within it. There has been hundreds of prompt research papers that have come out from really established labs and academic spaces. And the number one thing that they've all surfaced that leads to better outputs is examples. And they put a fancy technical term on that. They call it few shot learning. Just means that there's a couple examples, but the model is only going to be as good as the data you feed it. So in a similar way, you have to really fully understand what it is you're trying to accomplish, preferably have like an output, an end result that would make you happy, that would satisfy you. Give that to the LLM. Garbage in, garbage out. If you're able to give it, this is what I want you to do, this is what I want it to look like. Here's some previous examples of this. Do this for the following. It is going to be exponentially better than if you just asked it to do the thing, right? It can't read our minds. It's not sentient in any way, shape, or form. It's mathematical numbers. It's a statistical engine. So the more context, the more data you're able to feed it, it's going to be so much better for you. But I think everyone needs to come up with what works best for them and like your unique examples. And that's where it gets really, really clever and really, really good is when you're able to um to
Feed in your
tailor
own
it.
data, basically.
Yeah. And also this is a little meta, but to use the LLM to help craft the perfect prompt, right? They speak the language. And so sometimes what I'll have students do is we'll work through kind of a back and forth exercise working with the LLM. And then I have them ask, what would have been the perfect initial prompt to get to this output that we have now? And then the LLM generates this incredible detailed prompt. Something I'm seeing from like AI researchers and people deeper in the AI space when they share different prompts, they're really long. And there's also like failure clauses or like failure rules. And they actually like say it a couple different times. Like your output will be deemed a failure if it, isn't this many words or includes M dashes or like you have to be a little repetitive and super direct, clear with LLMs to get more optimal and better results.
I hate the M dashes, so I'm constantly telling them, please remove it and being as specific as possible.
Yeah.
I actually want to talk a bit about what you recently post because, like, with the launch of Atlas, there's also been a lot of security concerns, especially
Yeah.
with Atlas, being hacked. And you wrote, and I quote, LLMs cannot distinguish legitimate content from malicious on page instructions. Atlas stops only at 5.8% of limiting malicious pages, whereas Microsoft Edge has 53%. So they're obviously doing a better job. And I think like Chrome is around 40% or so. Kind to ask what practical defenses should marketers implement to reduce, prompt injection risk, especially since, AIs read the white text,
Yeah.
the HTML comments. So you're sort of like susceptible to to these attacks. And now that Atlas is a thing and obviously brands, companies want to be
Yeah.
on those platforms, they're also sort of more susceptible, right, for their brand being hijacked. So what advice do you have to marketers?
Yeah. I forget her name. She has a great blog post saying of the S in MCP stands for security. I think it just doesn't exist when you allow these machines to take actions. Like there is inherent risk here. And I think it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, right? To your point of marketers want to show up and allow these browsers to take action, but they also don't want to be vulnerable to malicious attacks. And I think it's really good to know that these browsers read everything on your site, right? Like everything is visible to them. And so having clearly defined buttons for like add to cart or schedule a meeting or schedule a call, that is really, really helpful in supporting the of letting these browsers take action on your website is making sure that you have a cleaned up kind of HTML space for them to navigate efficiently. And I hate this, but I do fear that we are going to see user generated content kind of be the most risky and vulnerable place for these attacks because now if you do allow unchecked comments to get posted on your site, that's a very easy way for someone to embed a malicious prompt for some sort of action, right? And so you just want to be really careful or be moderating those things.
Especially like, yeah, for the UGC security risk, they're quite
Jay, that because I think it is such a valuable thing.
quite open with your comments on I love this line, by the way. You said we can't have nice things. Like that's sort of like how Reddit and Quora are being hijacked. For marketers, we kind of know that not everything on Reddit is totally organic and genuine. People can easily buy comments, infiltrate groups, etc. So I was wondering, where do you actually see the future of Reddit and forums like as well? Where are they headed, and will they continue to be legit sources for AI browsers, or do you think there'll be a limit on it? Because you have such an extensive knowledge in the AI space, I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. It's tricky, because we see mods in different subreddits right now, like being really tough on any comments that they deem might be AI generated. I think Reddit is going to enable, better security from the standpoint of how many posts are you doing? What's the frequency? What is the language? They're going to try to catch more and more bot activity because, to your point, their big value add is the authenticity, right? It is supposed to be real people. And I think this is where we have to take a step back and acknowledge the fact that this is why Reddit is so valuable. They provide something that AI cannot touch, right? AI has no real world experience. AI has no friends. They have no hot takes, and these companies know this, which is why Google, in the AI overviews, and knowing that they're integrating AI in different places, they know it's going to be more important now than ever to surface real user stories, real user experiences through forums like Reddit. That's why they have this partnership, because it supplements what AI can never give you. And so I think there will be continued value there. But I think these platforms and forums, they have to continue to really protect that and come up with different methodologies to try their best to warrant against some of that activity. Things will bleed through. And I even think like the AI activity is a little fuzzy, right? You could use it to generate something, but change it. I mean, there's a lot of feels a little bit like the wild, wild west. And I also think us as an industry need to come up with some better kind of guidelines and best practices. Also, I think we need to push back on these AI companies a little bit more, where they should be holding accountability. They currently have zero accountability. They get stuff wrong, they release this and that, and they wash their hands under the term experimental. And I don't think that's right. I think we should really be pushing back on, we need transparency about what are the resources that are being used in terms of like environmental impact for the things that you're releasing. Because the fact that they've hidden this all behind, locked doors, is there's some really ugly things going on under the surface. I joke, but I'm serious. Like it's how the AI hot dog is made. It's really ugly and nasty, and they don't want you to know about some of these things. They just want to give you a polished AI butterfly to admire at the end of the day. And I think it's important to consider all the things that have gone on, before this and under the table to get to that butterfly, because it's a tough pill to swallow. And it's something we should at least have awareness and be talking a little bit more about.
I love that. I love that you called it an AI hot dog because we truly don't know what sort of meat is being used and at what cost. Like who are the butchers? Like where was this from?
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. It's scary because there are very few people in this position of power making all of these decisions for all of us. And that is a scary thing to consider, and yeah.
And also because you have so many quotable. Yeah, like I love your LinkedIn feed because I
Oh,
any
thanks.
post that you make it's succinct, it's to the point, and
I
it's
try.
still with a bit of humor injected. But I feel like this could be a bit relevant. You did mention the shift is not from Google to ChatGPT; it's organizing the world's information to make editorial decisions, and these editorial decisions are essentially in the hands of these AI companies, and how also recommendations are now actually turning into transactions. Because as we know, ChatGPT is slowly but surely moving to, I guess I saw this on LinkedIn as well. Someone saying that it started as your research helper, something like that, and then to your advisor, and now it's going to make transactions for you. What are your predictions on how ChatGPT is going to stay at change? I mean, because that's one of the biggest LLMs.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for marketers to prepare for being cited on this platform? What practical takeaways do you have?
Yeah. That's a good question. I think in terms of predictions for OpenAI, they are very much a Y Combinator, YC startup mentality. They ship things fast, right? And they can because they're trying to reach monetization. They're trying to figure out how to float this giant thing that has been bleeding cash for 3 years now almost. And Google, on the other hand, has so much to risk, right? Reputationally, they need to be a lot more careful. They're not able to ship as quickly, but they're trying to convey as they are, but they've started to do like a real infrastructure play, which I give them credit for because I think that that's pretty savvy in terms of the long-term approach here. And I think for marketers thinking about this stuff, it's tricky because there's two things at play underneath the hood here of kind of your AI search. There is on one hand the LLM that hasn't been trained or updated in over a year and has been fed essentially all of the world's information up until then. And it's your mediocre generating engine. It generates the average output of everything it's seen about that particular thing. It's a little bit of a popularity contest. So the more it's seen your brand, your name, your product mentioned in that previously trained kind of giant pile of text, the higher the probability is of it being surfaced in those outputs. And so in this category over here, the fundamental LLM technology, it is a bit of a popularity contest, and its brand mentions are the new backlinks. They really are, especially if or when these systems get retrained. It will be important to have your name, your brand, your company, your site in lots of locations that are relevant to the context you want to show up in. Over here, because again, they haven't been updated in over a year, they need to access search engines to pull in real time information, real time context. And so the other component of this AI search landscape is just a direct feed to search results. And what's fascinating, I can't believe more people aren't talking about this, but you can see the searches that LLMs are performing through the requests that they're making through Chrome DevTools or different. I just had a student create this really cool Chrome extension that does that automatically for you. It'll surface what the searches are based
Oh,
on your activity with ChatGPT, and then you can export it as a CSV. You can do some cool stuff with it. But it's so important to know that that's what's going on to pull in URLs, to pull in these links to pages. People think this is just AI. It's not, it's search results. And so I think it's important to recognize when that's happening and also to know how these two different technologies work so that you can try to optimize for both, right? It's still really, really important to show up high and prevalent for searches that LLMs are performing frequently, but to increase your odds of naturally showing up in LLMs without them going out and running any sort of search, which again, they can't do that every time. It's very expensive. So they've got different guidelines that will lead them to either make a search or not. But just a traditional LLM is just showing up in a lot of places online.
I love the breakdown. If you have any advice on how you're actually going to the mentions, because there's also a lot
Mm,
of tools out there. And previously, you did mention that you just made use of Google Sheets, and you can prompt. You can basically do this research on your own, and it's fairly inexpensive. But do you have any tools that you want to shout out for measuring AI mentions and LLM mentions, or any sort of brand mentioning monitoring tools? Because there's lots that have popped up who have been in the space but now have gained more prominence, and there's also a lot of
yeah.
new players.
Yeah, there is. I wanna make sure I'm seeing this one right. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I think if you don't wanna go the DIY route for AI citations, Bernard at ClearScope, he's got a really great thought process around this, and he talks about this, like, validity layer and how you can start to corral, like, what are those searches that are taking place under the hood, and how can we surface, roughly some, citations, and so they came out with a tool that's really, really exciting. I'm still trying to learn a little bit more about, like, the frequency of it, and I've got questions related to that, but at first pass, like, it's exciting and, different companies are starting to put some things into play that make sense. I think for brand mentions, at least for keeping track of new brand mentions, Alert Mouse is incredible. It's like basically the new Google Alerts, but way, way better. And this is a project of Rand Fishkin and a couple of his friends that they've he's been talking about this for years. And so it's so fun to see to see them create this and really provide value to people that sincerely want to know, like, where am I showing up? How can I keep better track of this? And that helps you do exactly that. I
Also,
also
great landing page, like great.
Isn't it
I
good?
love that you're making websites fun again.
Yes, I know. I forget who, like, designed this. I wish we could shout them out. Well, yeah, UX. I'm obsessed. So that's obviously really, really helpful. I'm always recommending SparkToro because now more than ever is it so, so important to show up with the right message in the right medium at the right time for your target market. And SparkToro allows you to do that by knowing where those conversations are happening. And that, in my opinion, is kind of the secret sauce for expanding and exploring more brand mentions is how can you authentically, kind of naturally, in a value driven way, show up in these other places. And yeah, I've seen different implementations of that do really well. Actually, while I was at Hugging Face and I was running PR for, like, the Bloom project and a couple other model releases, at first I didn't use SparkToro data, and then I did for media outreach. And when I did, and I connected with, like, the TechCrunch, MIT Press, all the all the outlets that SparkToro was telling me ML researchers, are active on, our announcement engagement started going through the roof. Like, it was so cool to see actual, like, real life outcome of being more targeted in those approaches. So I think that's like a savvy data driven way to show up better in those spaces. And I think, like, being very experimental, right? Like, playing with the different platform, maybe for 1 to 3 months and seeing, is it working or is it not? I think something I really took away from Hugging Face, which is a startup, a French-based startup, they're very results driven. It was always hammered into my brain, prioritized by impact. Like, are you prioritizing by impact? And so we would always sit down and consider, like, okay, what is it that we've been doing and what's been working and what hasn't? The worst outcomes were when we didn't know. It was really great to know when something wasn't working. That's awesome because then you don't have to waste time and resources and energy. You can now work on double down on the things that are working or dabble in these spaces that you wanted to explore. And I think that's where, like, that would take marketers to the next level. It would take SEOs to the next level is having that mindset because I fear like we don't do that enough, right? And we either don't have the right tracking in place or we aren't paying close enough attention to what is the true north, what is the true KPI that we're being, our performance is being gauged by, and why wouldn't we want to optimize more and more and more for that thing? What content works? How can we piggyback off that? And, like, doubling down instead of reinventing the wheel every month. I think is really important.
And just before we get to the rapid fire round, I just want to ask you, because for a lot of marketers, their North Star or the main KPI was click-through rate. And now it might lose impact over time as LLMs gain bigger market share of, traffic.
Yeah.
What other metrics or what metrics should they consider tracking or using as their North Star, as their main KPI?
Yeah, I think that's great. That's a great point. Darren Shaw just came out with this podcast and he was like gone last week or something. And so Dana D. Tomaso jumped on and like her voice is ringing in my head right now. And you asked that because she's like, I don't care where you get your visitors. I don't care where you get your customers. It could be from a magnet on a friend's fridge. It could be from random stuff. Like, I don't care. I care about understanding like the value add and how to kind of show up in those spaces that maybe are converting better. And so again, to kind of like reverse engineer the process, like what's the action that you want people to take? Is it, scheduling a call? Is it purchasing a product? Is it signing up for a newsletter, like having something in place that you can reverse engineer, like, ooh, referrals from LinkedIn do really well, right? This is something I've been doing for my course all year. And it's not easy. And it's also not like the funnest thing in the world, but it's important to sit down and be like, oh, LinkedIn is driving majority of my course signups, right? I need to continue. That's why I've been like continuing to spend time and invest in LinkedIn posts because I'm seeing the upside of that and getting the awareness out there and also just providing genuine value of kind of the things we talk about in the course. But finding your mediums that work best and then just doubling down. I think oftentimes too, when I talk to different marketing teams, they're spread so thin and they're supposed to be doing all the things. All the things. They got to come up with holiday posts and this and that. And I think this was another like gem that I learned while working at Moz was like quality over quantity. Like those evergreen pieces can snowball for you over time and to invest in the pieces that will continue to do really, really well instead of just like the flash in the pan post or this or that. Um, and there's like savvy ways to do it as well. You can, in the back of my head, I've got a constant log of the topics or things that tend to do really well on LinkedIn. And then I'm also kind of thinking about what's trending. Like, how could we like mash those things together in any order? Right. And so taking that kind of approach as well to just experiment and maybe have a little fun with it too, to see what's converting. But I think not taking the pause to measure like what's working or what's not is like a big miss.
And now, yeah, attribution is getting a bit harder, but
Yes.
investing some time in it to see how it
Yeah.
works. And it's interesting to note that like LinkedIn is your top referral source for your course.
It's not
So you're
even close.
investing heavily in that. Like, are you giving any love to any other platforms or traffic sources, any other social media platforms even? What is your strategy like? Sorry.
Yeah, no, I love that you're asking this because this is all I've been thinking about. Like I literally, I've been such limited time at the moment. Like I've been working so hard to like perfect and perfect and perfect this course so that it is as actionable, as valuable as possible, so that that is like the competitive differentiator and it's a no-brainer for people to check it out. And so in doing so, I am super limited at where I can invest my efforts. And my thing too is like I'm not outsourcing this. I don't feel comfortable automating or outsourcing social stuff. I think it's really important to kind of own my personal brand, at least for me, and to continue to give back to the audience that's like given so much to me and helped me so much. Like, and I can't even tell you how much I've learned from doing some of these posts because the comments either make me think differently or like consider something else. And it's such like a perfect breeding ground for the topics and the AI search and LLM landscape at the moment. I think in terms of investing on other platforms, I tried Instagram for a while, and this is all just like posts I really don't think too much about. I've got a 5-minute timer on Instagram, and it kicks me out, and I usually try to respect it. So it's real scrappy stuff I'm putting together. No one clicks on a link for my LinkedIn, and they only like it when it's like an actual picture of like me or someone. And so it doesn't work like as well as the LinkedIn medium is so perfect for the things I'm trying to get across and communicate. Twitter has really been a downhill spiral.
Has Blue Sky been a good alternative or not really?
It's tough because I feel like I probably haven't invested the time necessary to see the return. But again, like I'm so limited and I try to repost different things on those platforms when I can. But when I'm not seeing any like positive outcomes from it, or even a lot of it too is just people reaching out to me like, hey, I saw this on whatever platform. I never get any of those from these other ones. And again, it could be a user error here, but LinkedIn's been working so well that I'm trying to take my own advice and just like double down. Why would I want to, go out and try to rebuild different audiences when I have an incredible audience of people on LinkedIn that I want to continue to support?
I think this is sound advice. Like it's in line with what you're saying with marketers right now. They're very spread thin, so double
Yes.
down on what works, but
Yes.
still maybe sprinkle some brand mentions or brand awareness on these channels, but put most of your effort into the one that seems to work for you. I would like to go to a rapid fire round. So it's short answers and your hot takes on some questions around AI and SEO. So the first one is, what's maybe the strangest slash most interesting thing you used an LLM for?
So good. I don't know if this is strange, but I'm always using it to craft like snippets of code to do something to fix one thing or another.
Do you use like Codex or what's your
I love Claude. I love Cursor. But if I just need something quick, I'll go to Claude. But like, I never want to write another like advanced Excel or Google Sheet formula ever again, or a regex, line. I never want to write regex again. I think that and regex never made sense to me. Like, I get the basics of it, but things like that, I will always go to an LLM now, which probably isn't that unusual or weird. I'm trying to think. Oh, I know, I got it. Yeah, a company owed me money in 2023 when ChatGPT came out, and it was like they just weren't paying. And I had been trying to reach out and I was like, oh, my voice, like my writing voice is not working here. So I went to ChatGPT and I said, okay, I need you to rewrite this as if I've consulted and looped in a lawyer. And we need this to be more direct, right? Like that's not my usual sounding like writing voice, I guess. So it helped me do that. And then this is so horrible, Vanessa. Do not judge me. But I also tested and CC'd and a lawyer looking email that didn't bounce from a law firm. I like made up a name and somehow didn't bounce. I was just desperate. I just wanted this to be done. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like they should have paid me months and months ago. This is enough. I've had it.
warranted? So no judgment at all. I feel it's fair. All is
Yeah.
fair.
Right. And now I'm like, I want people to do this with medical bills. Like, this is why we need to
Yeah.
get it in the hands of people that are like trying to get SNAP benefits and dealing with that right now. Like, this is where like the inequity of the technology like really starts to grind my gears. And I'm like, how can we do that? But anyways,
But
it helped
this is
me.
a good hack. This is a good
Yes.
hack that people can
Yes.
use.
Oh, and I am actually helping it fight this like weird medical bill that my husband's dealing with. So hopefully that helps too. Cause we're like,
Are you using
what?
the same email?
No, no, maybe that's a good idea. Yeah, it was so funny. So I sent the email and Vanessa, not even an hour later, I was paid. They were
Love
like,
that.
they got together. And that's when I was actually sitting at a dinner with friends in New York and I saw it come through and I was like, this is the power. This is the power of LLMs. Like,
I
we
love
need
that.
more women using it. We need more like people of lower economic backgrounds and like dealing with
Who can't get access to the
insurance
help or might
fees.
feel intimidated with something like this and it will end up being in the losing
Yeah.
losing end, and the fact that they can kind of like they now have the resources but this information needs to reach the people
Yes.
that need it the most.
And it needs to be freely and readily available. Like, I don't know if that's at libraries, but that's something I think about a lot. I'm like, how do we do that? You need to do that.
Please share and we will follow
Yeah,
and support.
I'm thinking about it.
Awesome. Next question. What's your favorite LLM? You mentioned Claude for coding. Is that your go-to?
My favorite LLM, this is so funny. I still go to Sonnet 3.7 for writing. So it's a
Oh
Claude
wow.
model. I don't know why. I think it's just better at writing. It's better than Sonnet. The new Sonnet models 3.7 is like, no, it's just near and dear to my heart. I think it's the best. And then for programming, I mean, the O5 model has gotten really good at programming, and Cursor in general is just incredible to use and inline it with programs. And so I usually use that for code.
And for research, because you also do a lot of deep research, I'm assuming, for your courses, for your content.
Yeah.
What's your favorite LLM?
I do not use LLMs for research. I'm, like, pretty
Don't
strict
trust it.
about that. Yeah, because it's such a limited window and it's also usually some older things that they're surfacing or they haven't considered this or that. I think and this is what I stress to students, is it's your job to find, like, the data and the sources that you wanna do some sort of analysis on, and then the LLMs are only appropriate in different ways. So, like, you can't force an LLM to analyze a huge stack of research. It doesn't work like that. You have to, like, actually be thoughtful about, okay, do we want it to categorize this research, right? Like, line by line. It's really good at doing that. A student wanted to analyze all of the Google reviews for a client of his, and he fed it all into all the LLMs, and they all sucked at analyzing it. But when he pulled it into Google Sheets and he had GPT for Sheets line by line, analyze the sentiment of each one, analyze like the context, kind of categorize it, then he was able to do real just analysis on that information. And then you have some real kind of AI supported research. That's the only way I will use it
So
because
not
again,
even Notebook LM or
I love Notebook LM. Notebook LM,
getting because then you're getting all the research and you're creating like a safe parameter
yeah,
for.
Notebook LM is the best if you need like a quick reg model that cites its sources. Notebook LM is just so wordy. It is so incredibly
It's very
wordy.
intimidating.
Yeah, you have to really like guide it to be like be succinct. What using so many?
I feel like it's very much an academic, like it's bringing me back to uni days, when you had to
Yeah,
write a thesis and use these kind of.
right?
Yeah. The
And
interface is
even
just
like
very
yes, it is.
intimidating. Nice.
That's
What's one SEO task you never want to do manually again?
ooh, that's good. That's good. God, there's so many.
Your current favorite, I mean, your current pain point that you've experienced and you're like, you've automated it and it's life changing.
Yeah. I mean, I think just having like a bunch of different notebooks that do different things, like a couple quick ones off the top of my head is like the notebook that just in an instant with Google Search Console data gives your client the custom click-through rate curve of their website. Not only that, you put in brand values and then you get branded outbreak of what your click-through rate looks like for branded searches versus unbranded or non-branded. And then you can do some really cool things with that, but I never want to do that by hand. Like there's notebooks and programs all set up to do that again in like a very statistic driven way. We're not feeding this into an LLM and letting an LLM tell us that. It is done via like pandas in a notebook environment. LLMs will get better at this, but it's good to know that fundamentally this is not what they are built for. And we're going to see in the future these stacked models where today, they're not very good at math. They're going to get really good at math because we're just going to stack mathematical models and programs on top of these. But until we have these kind of stacked capabilities, you have to be pretty careful.
That's a very important point, knowing the distinction that they're not great for every task.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's good to know the difference. Yeah. What are they qualified for versus not qualified for?
And what's one AI feature or product you wish existed?
Hmm. Like a house cleaning one or like folding laundry. It's like, why are like we're generating like try on these dresses digitally. I don't want that. Like I want something that's gonna like do my dishes. Do you know?
It used
Or
to
like
be a robot. I think there was like a robot or something like that. An European company that launched like an AI physical robot that can help with house chores, and it looked
see, I
quite
think
dystopian.
that's
That
exciting.
that's you're all in for that.
Yeah, I mean, so here's my thing is like the longer I've been in this field, like the questions like, oh, is AI gonna kill us all? It's like that's a very, in my opinion, like kind of a rich white man question. There's a lot of like single mothers or like people just trying to like get their kids to school and like helping out there, I think is so much more like enriching and valuable. Yeah, it was just there's so many other spaces like we should be putting this technology and it's just so messed up that it's not happening because it's not providing the funding or the revenue that it would in these, you know,
The free hand of capitalism is guiding the AI.
brutal.
Yeah, where AI resources is put. But yeah, that's quite unfortunate.
Yeah.
What's your favorite tool you didn't expect to love?
This is kind of really silly. Let's see if it's still on my desk. Like just the NFC chips. Like I'll show you what this one does. I love these.
I love that
I'll
it's a physical thing.
Yeah, it is. It's bringing like this technology to like a physical world, but it's also like this is what I tell my students too. Like, there's so many tasks that don't require AI and that we have technology for. Cron jobs that automatically can check a website every day for changes. Like there's different things like that. Same with like this. Like, I don't need AI to create a 45-minute timer when I do my laundry. I can just put my phone over. I've done this before and it does work, but it doesn't show it right away.
And it just kind of like starts the timer and it's
Yeah,
exactly
there it goes. So there you see the clock, the top. So my husband's like big in like household automation. And so he does it all from his phone. But I'm like, I want to start putting him on these so I could just turn off the lights, boom, by doing this instead of having to go on the phone.
because yeah, we have IKEA Home, the home app, right? And I hate having to like tap in and like search the app. So you do actually want something physical that
Yes.
works.
Yeah. I made one for my dad. We have a hunting land and like this ranch that's 40 minutes away from him and my mom's house. And so he can just scan it when he's heading home and it notifies her so that she knows to like expect him or like or like when he got to the ranch. Like, it was just like little things you can do for check ins. I made one that automatically sent my husband, this was years ago, like, I love you or something. And he hated it. He's like, you can't type that out. I'm like, isn't that cool? Like, and he's like, no, he's always teaching me about like the boundaries of AI. Like, I've created like a poem for him using AI, and he's like, I hate that AI made me feel something, because I told it about Paul and what he likes and all this stuff. And
He's
he's
trying to
like,
keep you human. He's like, I want
he's
the
trying,
human you,
I'm
not.
like, this is really important to know. And he's like, yeah, I hate that AI made me like feel an emotion. And I had no idea that you use AI to do it. And then it got me thinking, it's like, oh man. And we talked about this in class of like, yeah, would you want AI to write your eulogy? Like there's different spaces and or like a father of the bride speech. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So those are good conversations
I love
to have.
that. I love that. I
Yeah.
can totally identify with it. My husband, on the other hand, is all for AI. I feel like most of what comes out from him now, he's been taken over by ChatGPT. I'm like, I'm losing you. I'm literally losing you. I'm like, you cannot tell ChatGPT to come up with a menu for when we were weaning our son.
Oh
It was
my
just so, I
God.
was like, I don't trust it. Cause when you know how things
Yeah.
work and what sources they're using, I'm like, you still need to like just trust me. He's like, no, I try like ChatGPT said it. Look, it created it. So he's been taken over. Unfortunately, I've lost it.
Has it been helpful though? Has there been like instances where you're like, oh, that kind of
Yeah,
helped?
so for example, we set up my best friend with one of his good friends on a date, and he actually used ChatGPT to create like a summary of who this person is. And it's in the same format, but like, so he sent her ChatGPT summary to the guy and then like vice versa. And so
Cute.
they both had like this very good, like quite witty summary of themselves through Antoine, my husband's lens. That was really, really sweet.
That is really sweet. And did they hit it off? Did it work?
They actually did. So for now, early days still, but like I can't.
Matchmaker.
I'm hoping we can use this for the wedding speech, and
Yeah.
ChatGPT will help us then.
Yes, that
But
is
yeah,
hilarious.
two more questions. In 6 months from now, what AI capability do you think will change SEO, specifically the SEO space, significantly?
6 months from now, I think that there will eventually be like a rebound effect for all of the AI generated content. And there will be this like wave of proving that it was authentically created, or there will be a wave of like real, authentic, real life images or video that, was taken and delivered by someone, or, I don't know. And I've sort of like, I think there will be more value placed on like human creativity and like human generated things. And I'm even seeing like Grammarly prompted me the other day of like I was writing something and it was something like, do you want us to provide like an authenticity like stamp or something that you've written this and not, and I was like, oh my God, I've never seen that before. But I think things like that might start to be trending in terms of like providing that real like authentic.
Human made
Yeah, and, like, I
or
see
human
quote.
verified, like information
Yeah,
has been.
human verified. I see, like, the human aspects of content, like, being even more and more emphasized, like, unique, valuable quotes or opinions and authorship, and I don't know, I think putting that back into content is going to be really important.
I feel like this is reminiscent of like when I was in Malaysia then, and there was a boom with e-commerce sites coming up, right? Like that's when
Yeah.
people started shopping online more. So a lot of these companies, like they call them like trusted review sites, were a
Yes.
huge thing where you would have you remember those like emblems or whatever, like those like starred logos to be like these reviews are trusted. This is a trusted company. So I guess
Yeah.
this is what's what you predict is going to happen for content.
Yes, exactly. That is such a perfect example of that. Yeah.
Actually, I lied. I have two more questions, but you're very short. If AI vanished tomorrow or turn too costly, which part of your workflow will break first?
You know what's so funny is I feel like my most valuable applications don't use AI at all. They've used AI to create them. So they're like Chrome extensions that do a thing, or they're programs I can run on my computer that do a thing.
So you've essentially safeguarded yourself bit,
A little bit, a little bit.
unless they increase. Like, do you? Yeah,
I think
and
the
cost associated. Sorry,
GPT sheets would really be a heartbreak. Like I have that pulled into so many things that I do on a regular basis to like categorize, to tag, and it's so incredibly helpful. I think that would probably hit the hardest for sure.
finally, my very last question, and then I'll let you go. One word to describe the future of SEO.
I think quality, like in order to compete with the mediocre generating engines of the world, we have to be adding like real time, high quality insights.
No
Yeah.
hacks.
Yeah. Yeah,
Love
exactly.
that. Let the people know, if they don't already know, how they can find you, what you're
Yeah.
currently working on. You shared a lot of the insights from from the AI course, go to market marketing course
Yeah.
that you run. So maybe you can
Yeah.
talk a bit about that.
Yeah, I would love to. And before I do that, I thought of a better answer to your SEO task that I never want to do like again or that I use AI for, content briefs. I used to print off the top 10 search results for something I was competing for and surgically analyze them, like with different colored pens multiple times. What topics are mentioned, how many times are they mentioning price, how long, multimedia, like all of it. AI is incredible at analyzing context and analyzing topics and intent and formats and all of this stuff. And that's exactly what Federico has built at WordCrafter. And this is hilarious because it's literally been like the product child. Look at he's falling all over the place.
Love
Sorry
it.
for Pumpkin.
No,
But
this is great.
WordCrafter has been like this like product child of Fed's incredible experience in the AI world and SEO and content marketing, and also like our efforts at Hugging Face because we again like would go through this process of creating these briefs and it would sometimes take us days because we wanted to get just surgical on that approach. And that's literally what WordCrafter does, which is so amazing. And I do have an affiliate code. People don't have to use it, but I'm just obsessed with the tool. And I think Brittany still gets you like 25% off, but it's literally, I've gotten so many teams hooked on it and it's saving so much time because it's able to do all that for you. But you can also DIY version of that too, if people don't want to pay for a tool, is the SERP API. I should have given that's like a huge tool of mine that I have in so almost all of my SEO notebooks, to be honest, like that are doing keyword analysis, clustering, different forms of like keyword research, and you're able to surface all the real-time search results. So those are the two I had to get into to because I feel like listeners will find those really valuable. And yeah, and then I've been working so hard on the Actionable AI course for marketers. It is so much fun. I've expanded it to 4 weeks. And we've got 2 hackathons where we work in real time on your projects and we help get people kind of unstuck on the thing that they're trying to work on. So every student works on their own individual project. And again, it's the goal is to build something before the end of course that's valuable and helping you in your work and getting you to think along the lines of how you can be building these things more regularly. So the next cohort, when is it? I think it's January 5th. January 5th. So super exciting. And then fun little announcement too is something that has really kind of come from this has been my connection with these outstanding students and like staying in touch with graduates is really important to me. We usually do a kind of like a graduate office hours or a graduates call at least once a month. This has shed light on marketers and SEOs need and deserve support beyond the course in ways that not only myself, but other students are able to give. And so I've been working really hard on this AI community that has been so much fun that is helping get people up to speed in various ways and coming up with the kind of quick automations or workflows, and everything's being shared in that format. And so people are invited to check that out. That's going to be or do you hear him? Did you hear him? God. Bucket,
Definitely.
I'm trying to talk.
He's
So
so
bad.
excited about the new
My
cohort.
assistant back here is just misbehaving today. Um, but yeah, people can check that out at orangelabs.co. And yeah, and then just to reach out to me on LinkedIn or BritneyMuller@gmail.com if
And for that
people
coupon code.
have follow-up questions. Yeah, yeah, let me know. And yeah, I'll share any
Awesome.
and all that we've talked about here too. So thanks so much
Thank you
for
so
having
much.
me on,
No, this
Vanessa.
was
This was so
great.
fun.
Yes, I loved talking to you.